All right, it's the Sit Down Zumock podcast special episode, ladies and gentlemen, in studio / Zoom. I got two comics that I really admire, and I wanted to do this episode with these guys because these are two dudes I lean on when I'm going through problems. I'll call them. They're very gracious with their time. They're comics I respect, guys who've been through hell and back, and almost role models to how they conduct their life in this business. And since I've been going through all my problems, a lot of people have been messaging me their problems. And I thought it'd be a cool episode to do with Rich Voss and Dave Landau, because I look at them as pillars, guys who have figured out the matrix and they're doing well and they've been very successful. And again, guys I lean on. So Dave Landau, Rich Voss, thanks for doing the podcast today.
Yes. Here's the thing. I saw Dave perform as funny can be. I'm telling you, I know who sits and watches another comic for an hour. So no disrespect, very, very funny. And I watched the whole thing. But when you introduce us, you say Dave Landau and the legend Rich Voss, because I'm not trying to say, I just want to say I'm at a kind of a different level than a lot of people. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, let me do this over again. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen him on Comedy Central, Last Comic Standing. He's the co-host of the Anthony Cumia Show, Mr. Dave Landau.
Oh, good.
And the legend, Rich Voss.
Perfect. Perfect.
I like how some people have books behind them. He has shoes and I have nothing. This is
do you want to hear some, like, where did I work? Where have I worked last week? Oh, Rhode Island. So I do an interview, some shitty newspaper interview. Yeah. But the credit, like, I'm reading it, what the guy, he was a regular on Opie and Anthony, a regular, or Last Comic Standing. First of all, one was 15 or 16 years ago. Opie and Anthony were who knows how many years ago. And, which always has a negative stigma behind it, even though I had fun for years.
Oh yeah.
But no one in Hollywood was going, oh, Opie and Anthony, let's get them. And I'm not trashing, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is these are the oldest of my credits, and these fucking writers or you do a podcast or whatever are so fucking lazy to just look up or up, you know what I mean? Because I go, well, I've done he wrote an article, and last week I was on HBO Max with Colin Quinn's special, and this summer King of Staten Island, the fucking movie.
Yeah, the Judd Apatow movie.
Yeah, a movie and an HBO thing since the summer, but he puts Last Comic Standing and Opie. It's the most embarrassing. I wanted to. Then I wrote back. See, here's what you learn when you stop drinking and getting high, to do the right things. I wrote back and went, "Thank you. It was a nice article." Instead of fucking smashing them like I wanted. You know what I mean?
Well, on mine, they put recent credits of the Anthony Cumia Show with Dave Landau, and nobody has a clue what the fuck that is. So you got it in its prime.
Anthony's so funny, man.
Oh, dude, he's brilliant.
Gotta be funny.
There's just nobody faster, and every impression you could ever imagine just flies out of his mouth, and every time it shocks me.
So quick.
And whatever the subject is, you can go down that road with him. Like, we went down Jan Michael Vincent movies, and he knew all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were doing hate signs. He knew at least. Somebody just sent me an email with hate signs. But
sounds like
he's
O&A fans.
Sounds like, but so brilliant, so quick, those guys. And anyhow, Chad, go ahead. I'm sorry for.
No, it's good. No, first of all, I want to start off by this, because everyone's going through. I'm reading all these great emails I'm getting from people, and everyone's going through shit right now. Not just me. So I've been thinking about trying to be the best version of myself right now, because I have an uphill battle. I got a lot of problems, and I just wanted to ask how long have you guys been sober?
I live in the moment today. I'm going on 35 years. I'll have.
And wow, I'm I'd like to be able to say 11, 6 years ago, I had a bad relapse for a couple days. But I do count that against myself. But I would like to say it was 2009, 11 years ago, July 7th, but it was May 5th of 2015
How
or 2014. So 6
how
years.
when like how long did you go back out for?
I only went back out basically for a day. And it was actually, it's interesting you said Last Comic Standing, because it was when I got eliminated on Last Comic Standing. I somehow put these expectations on myself that it mattered so greatly. And then I was at my niece's baptism of all places, and I was left alone in a garage with a keg. And that's when I decided I'll just get shit-faced right now at this child for or a party for a child. And I completely got wasted. I was lucky enough that my wife was with me, was able to get me home. She was glad that it happened because I had been hitting certain depression issues for a while at that point. But 100% it was my fault, and I think I was looking for an excuse. I think when you relapse, that's what happens: is you slowly start telling yourself what that excuse is going to be, whether you realize it or not, and then you let it happen. And I completely allowed myself to relapse, and it ruined 5 years of sobriety for me at that point.
And was it hard to come back? Like when you came back, well, it was all, you were out there for a day, but
Yeah.
it's very humbling. It was humbling to come back, right? Or is that the word you use? I guess humbling.
Yeah, for me it was humbling because I worked so hard and I was able to destroy it. And you know how they say, you get back in that same old squirrel cage again, which is such a weird phrase, but it's so true. I went exactly back to the moment I left. I went right back to being a blackout drinker with absolutely no control over myself.
In one day.
In one day, it's all it took. And all it took was just an excuse in my head. And that was the hardest part, is I worked so hard and I ruined it for myself, but I jumped back on it, and I've been lucky enough to not fall off yet.
So you're lucky. Some people don't make it back. You know that.
Absolutely.
You don't get a second chance.
Dave, how's that hangover the next day? I'm just curious.
Dude, it gets so shitty when you're older. And then when you're 5 years older, because I finally hit rock bottom. For me, I was 27, but I had been using for 15 years at that point. And it was my 13th arrest. And that's when I had hit rock bottom. And I was in solitary confinement in a jail. And that's when I saw my mugshot where I looked like this fat Pablo Escobar. And I realized that I had just ruined my life. And I started looking over everything that brought me there and everything that took me to that moment. So the hangover was far worse, because it's one thing to be hungover when you're drunk every day of your life. You just crack a beer, get in the shower, and forget that it ever happened. But when you actually care about yourself, or at least are attempting to, it's the worst feeling in the world. I mean, did you quit, Rich, and keep going? Or did you also have that struggle?
No, when I quit, I mean, I hit, it's just saying sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mhm.
My drug of choice was free base, crack, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same.
Mhm.
And, drinking, whatever. And you just come to the point where I go, I can't do this anymore. I can't, I'm going to die or go to jail, or, and then, so I called this agent. I said, do you have any one-nighters tonight? Because I'm going to rehab tomorrow. So he gave me a one-nighter. I think it paid $60. I went into New York, bought cigarettes, like 4 vials, smoked till sunup. My mother drove me to rehab, and I haven't picked up since then. But I do have a problem with substitution, gambling at times, instant gratification substitutions, like buying stuff online or sneakers, which so whatever. I don't have one of anything. I have to have 3 of it or 4. It's my fucking addictive personality. If I buy a hoodie and I like it in brown, I go, well, I got to get black now.
Yes.
Brown doesn't match every color. You know what I mean? So there's not just one. I'm not satisfied. So, and that's just me. I try to work on it. you know, in the beginning of COVID, I was buying shit on Amazon. I got survival backpacks full of shit, thousands of dollars worth of stuff. I'm not going anywhere, you know. So, but drugs and alcohol are what going to kill me first, you know. So when I quit, I completely surrendered. I go, I lost. I was in rehab, and they go, don't do comedy for a year, you know, keep away. The day I got out of rehab, I did comedy. That night I worked at a club because I knew I wanted not to pick up way more than I wanted to pick up. Once that desire of wanting to stop, and like I've said in many different meetings, at some point, who knows if your life will get better or worse, but the obsession and compulsion will be lifted at some point. It will be. Mm-hmm. And that's what fucks with you. Addiction, you know, unless you're doing barbiturates, heroin, or whatever, or alcohol, you know, it's physical. Really, cocaine is not a physical addiction, but every addiction, what you're dealing with is the mental addiction, the obsession and compulsion, because all physical addictions will be lifted. I mean, you'll be done. It'll be out of your body within 2 weeks, or I don't know how long it takes, physical addiction. So you're dealing with your fucking mind. And that's, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of those physical addictions, at least with me and alcohol, it took months, at least, that I felt that way. It may not have been the actual physical addiction, but I felt me still shaking out of it for a long time after. And that was always difficult. Yeah, I just, because I did still want to drink when I decided to get sober. And not that I wanted to drink, I wanted to stop drinking. But then I did go out to do comedy, and it was such a crutch for me at that point that the idea of going up on stage without it, though, I had to do it. Like, it meant everything to me, because a lot of people said same thing. Don't go up on stage and do stand-up comedy. You're just going to a bar and you're just going to want to drink. And it's like, no, I'm going to a comedy club. Like, I never got into comedy to get laid and to do that shit. I literally did it just because I loved comedy. And the love for that was stronger than my need to get drunk at the time. Like, it finally had trumped that.
So there was never temptations at the club, like when you were there, because, you know, that routine of the road and being out in the road and in Omaha, you're fucking bored. You're just trying to kill time.
Fuck her. She won't get back to me. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, she loves you.
She does, but I do like her a lot.
Yeah. There was temptations, absolutely. I mean, especially with drinking, because it's so, I guess you could say, socially acceptable, even though it makes you act like the biggest jackass imaginable. It's one of the most dangerous things I think you can put in your body. But for me, it was every bit of relief I ever had. It was everything that made me confident and social and happy, at least I thought. So yeah, there were temptations, especially at times when I got depressed, just to say, fuck it, let's go back to where we were at. And I just didn't, because I knew I would wake up with the same problems.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing too, though. Like, I don't know if I could have went back to comedy if my drug of choice was freebase.
Right.
It wasn't alcohol. You know, if I went to a club and everybody was sitting there freebasing, I don't know if I could, you know what I mean? I don't know if I could have done it. Alcohol was not I drank every day, but I didn't crave the alcohol like I did the cocaine.
Rich, how'd you get into that? How do you find that?
How do you get into it? You go from one phase of addiction to, well, that's not enough. This seems good. Let's try this. Oh, yeah, this is good. And, you know, you just.
Because I've never done anything. I've never smoked pot. I've never done any drug except alcohol. And that's
alcohol's the oldest known drug to man is alcohol. Mm-hmm. That's the oldest known drug is alcohol. You know, anything that you get addicted or obsessed to or changes your mind, your mood, your mind, it's an alterating drug, right?
Yeah, alters your perception of everything.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what drug. A drug is, they say a drug is a drug is a drug. Alcohol, coke.
No, but I just never wanted to go and try anything else. I don't know. Or you wanted to try other things, you know, besides.
No, Yeah, I mean, you can't. I'm not going to be, I never got how people, like, if I play golf with somebody, have one or two beers, or people that drank beer. Like, one, if I was drinking for taste, I'd have a Gatorade. Two, if I'm drinking to get drunk, I drank, fucking Southern Comfort, or, whatever the fuck, fucking tonics. Like, I didn't drink because I was a social person. I drank or did drugs to escape or cover the pain of whatever I was dealing with at the moment or in life. So it doesn't matter what I was doing. I was going to do it to the 100th degree.
What you just said is exactly where I'm at. I want to escape because I'm overwhelmed. I got pain in my life and I just want to get away from it. And the temptation is so, like, I just want to forget. And I know other people, judging by these emails I'm getting, they're going through the same thing. So how do you fill that void, Dave? Like, what do you do?
Well, when I was young, a large reason why I started drinking was I have a twin brother, very popular, very well-liked kid. I was more of the creative, nerdy, kind of kid. And I started drinking basically to gain friends and be social. So that was where I started. But then my dad got very, very sick. He got diagnosed with brain cancer, care of Agent Orange in Vietnam. And he was my hero, and he died, when I was a teenager. And I watched him suffer for years. They denied his claims. The VA wouldn't pay for him. They've since, blamed themselves, but they've never compensated us in any way. And that's when I first started drinking to numb the pain. And I realized it worked. It numbed all my problems. It also caused me to wreck every car I ever had, make my parents' life 100 times harder on them. And now when I realize that, the fact that I've taken drinking and drugs out of the equation, it's made my life easier, but I'll be honest, at times difficult, because you have to face things in life head on. You have to do it sober, and you can't just escape, and you can't just wait for it to go away, or in a lot of times wait for that problem to leave you, like if it's another human being, because you're just too big of a pussy to handle it yourself. And I mean, I hate to use a term like that, but a lot of times I was just getting fucked up because I was too scared to face my own reality. So now I just have to deal with my problems head on. It's not necessarily always easy, but I know that I can't just get wasted. And sometimes I would get wasted to create a bigger problem. Because let's say you get in a breakup. Well, if I down a fifth and then crash my Mustang into a house, good news is I have much bigger problems now, and everything before seems like small potatoes. And I think I would do that, as I would hurt myself a lot for that reason. And I wanted to die. And the difference is now I don't want to die. I actually want to live. I have a family. I have things that I care about. So when a problem comes at me, instead of immediately going at it in trying to escape it, I actually try to handle it, and I try to be there for other people. But I just try to handle my problems head on to the best that I can, because I learn that no matter what you do, you're going to kind of project your inadequacies onto other people, whether you realize it or not. And if I'm an angry person or I'm a depressed person, I'm going to assume you're like that. I'm going to kind of put that on you. I have to allow people to be people, and I have to allow mistakes to be made, and I have to allow myself to be a human being. And when I realize that I have no control over anybody's actions and I can't control the world around me, it gave me a huge amount of freedom. Because I cannot try to control the world. I can only do the best that I can. And I fuck up plenty. But now I just have the ability to look at me and go, okay, you're not perfect. I'm like Rich. Like I did a lot of cocaine, but it was to stay awake to drink. And that was what I used to do. And with him, I buy 3 or 4 of the same shirts. I buy the same shoes. I do the exact same thing. It's part of my nature to be an addict and to do everything full on. I was the same as him, where it's like the idea, why would I be drinking if I wanted a beer? I'll drink a cherry Coke. I'll bong a fifth because I want to forget about what happened to my dad. It's just easier that way. So now it's just facing my problems head on, no matter how much it hurts, because that's just life. You can't get sober and all your problems go away. And that's something that it took me a long time to realize, that you're still going to have terrible days. You're still going to have hard times. But now you can actually look at it with somewhat of a clear head and try to fix it.
It's, they say, it's just living life on life's terms. Since I've quit getting high, I've never been in jail. I mean, I never went to jail. I just went to one night. I get locked up for this or that dumb thing. Never county, always city. I've paid every bill on time. I'm not looking over my shoulder. Everywhere I went, I was like this because I owed everybody money. I left my house in fear on a daily basis.
You felt hunted, right?
Yes, everywhere I go to a party, in high school or out of high school, would go to a party outdoors or some, and I knew there was going to be 1 or 2 or 3 people I owed money to. And, I was a fucking get over scam artist. I was a scumbag. I ruined every business I tried or every job I ever had. I fucked it up because of drugs. Never had a real relationship, but that, yeah, I guess it, because you're attracted to those people. You're attracted to dysfunction. If you're leaving,
I can relate.
You're attracted to that. The people I hung out with in school and out of school with either from broken homes like me or addicted or partying, and just your average everyday fuck ups. And it just grew from this group to that group to that group, from this drug to that drug to that drug, and to just full blown addiction. And comedy, I was an addict from, 4th grade. I remember coming home from school, and I've said this in meetings or when I spoke, I used to put on this album, this old comic back in the day. His name was Von Meter, fucking the biggest comic of his time. He did the impression of the Kennedys. The album's The First Family. He was the biggest comic going. And when the Kennedys were assassinated, his career was over, done. But anyhow, I would come home from school and put that album on and listen to it every day. And I didn't realize this till later in life. My parents were going through a divorce, and that was covering the pain. I would come home and laugh instead of crying and crying because of divorce. So throughout life, I found stuff to cover the pain, whatever the pain was. Who the fuck knows? Not feeling as good as, feeling inadequate sexually, emotionally, whatever. So you cover that pain, it's just at some point in life you got to say, hey, I got to face fucking life and reality, because there's no good ending. There's never a good ending. You just don't. Yeah,
But even with comedy, you're talking about you're attracted to the dysfunction and the, like, even in comedy, I was always attracted to the party guys. I was one of the guys who got drunk with Dave Landau when I was like, he came down to the Funny Stop. I remember getting hammered with you, and I see you as a completely different person now. And I look at you and how you're so thoughtful to people and how you always make time every time I contact you, or even Rich. Is that something you learned through the program, is just to be there for people and to follow through?
I do it because I'm lonely. Because no one calls me.
But every time I've ever reached out to you, you've always gotten back. And
there's a saying in life, and it goes with everything. You can't keep what you got unless you give it away. You can't, and anything, for your kids, you pass down knowledge. You don't keep that to yourself. You pass it down. You can't keep what you have unless you give it away. So you pass your knowledge or whatever, your life experiences to your kids. You pass what you've learned in being sober to people trying to get sober or people that are sober. And you try to give it away. Listen, I'm a self-centered narcissist. Don't get me wrong, but I will try to give away what I have, No, does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, because the strangest thing about getting sober is you have to be selfish again. Yeah. And that's, you look at that, you go, wait, I wasn't being self-centered my problem. It's like, no, now you actually have to learn to be self-centered and care about yourself, which is, you were caring about the wrong things before. You were still self-centered, but now it was keeping you alive. And that was something that I always found to be very interesting about sobriety. And I was like you, my mom was bipolar and abusive. So I would go upstairs when she was on a downswing. She refused to get help. And my dad wouldn't be around because he was at work, and she would only really act out if he wasn't there. So I would go and draw, and that was my escapism. I would draw my own worlds, or I would ask my dad to take me to the movies. And that was the same as you, where that was the beginning of me trying to escape. And I was happier because I was safe. I was safe under a blanket drawing. I was safe at the movie theater from being hurt.
I'm Dave. I'm not to cut you off, but I had the same.
No.
I had a stepfather who was abusive. I mean, physically,
Yeah.
like full punch. And
Yeah.
I would go and draw, or I'd go and pretend I was in something. It was an escape. The exact same thing. So I'm connecting with that.
No, and that's, I think, how a lot of people start, and how Rich was saying he would put on a comedy album. I mean, you find these things that turn into escapism. The reality is there's positive things you can do to escape, and that's okay. I think it's fine to not want to be part of every second of every day and have to be emotionally invested in everything and not want to watch a movie or listen to music or do whatever you do. That's totally natural. The problem is when you're doing an 8-ball of coke a night and
Yeah.
crashing cars, and like it's no longer escapism. It's just you are now being controlled by the drug. You're not even you. You're just a vessel that this shit lives in. And that's when I realized that was my bottom. Was I wasn't looking at me in a mirror anymore. I was just looking at a bottle.
Yeah, that's fucking true. You're not even, you're just, your job is to get high. That's your
Mhm.
job. That's
Yeah.
what you live for. Every day was, how am I going to scam or get money to get high? I mean, I didn't have money. I didn't, I was, once in a while I'd get some gigs and fuck up all that money all the time. But, addiction and recovery is very self-centered.
Mhm.
And the business we're in is very self-centered. I mean, it's all day. It's me, trying to sell yourself. Me.
Yeah.
It's about, so being an addict in this business, there's so much self-centeredness and it's so hard to escape. That's why this pandemic was kind of good for me for comedy, because all I would do was work every fucking weekend trying, and it was just nonstop, oh, this person's getting that, I got to do this, and just the fucking jealousy and the fucking resentment and anger towards clubs. And now if somebody cancels something, I'm happy. I worked on my yard for months. You know what I mean? I got out of, I love comedy, but we're in such a business where you got to keep fucking just moving. Look, I know fucking major stars in this business that feel, it's not enough. They got to keep going and going.
Mhm.
And you look at them going, you're fucking as big as you can get. So, at some point you got to, and the same with alcoholism. It's an addiction. It doesn't fucking stop. You don't plateau at, I'll just smoke freebase on weekends or do meth on Thursdays. There's no fucking, there's no plateau. There's
Right.
no,
Did you guys ever used to do deals with yourselves like that? Because I have. Like, I'll just drink on Fridays and Saturdays, and then next thing you know, it's Friday through Friday.
Yeah, I do that with scratch offs, with lotteries, with numbers. I won't play until Friday. I won't scratch off till the weekend. I buy one and I'm back out all week. Yeah, it's
Right.
like same with drinking. It's.
Yeah,
I know one
mine.
thing. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that. I agree with you on that. Where when I started, because I was very young when I first ended up in a program. I was about 15 and 16. I'm sorry, because I just crashed my car the day I got my license, which is an incredible achievement. And I was in a rehab, and there were these two older guys, or not a rehab, but it was a class on alcohol. You had to take this alcohol assessment class. And they pulled me outside and they were like, why are you here? You're so young. Let's drink. And I ended up getting drunk with grown men in the parking lot of a church where I just learned about alcohol. And then I took off and I just didn't care about it. I literally got in my car. This was 6 months later after my DUI when they let me have my license back, and immediately drank and drove. And it was that, I don't know, I guess that just connects in that way where I needed that. And I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it was just something that allowed me to say, okay, I just listened to this whole class. They all said, you don't have to drink beer, or you don't, a lot of them, their advice was just don't drink hard liquor, drink beer. So I drank hard liquor with them, and I was like, okay, well, I'm only going to drink hard liquor after I talk to those guys, which is even the worst decision somehow, you know? So even leaving that class that day, my mentality as a 16-year-old alcoholic was, oh, well, I'll just stick to liquor. And that was the deal that I gave myself. Then it was, I'll just stick to beer. I never liked wine, but it was, I'll just stick to this. I'll only drink Miller Lite. I'll only carry around Busch. And I made these agreements with myself that got more ridiculous and ridiculous the more I became chemically dependent.
Chad, when's the last time you drank?
When I was arrested, it was we're looking at I should know this by heart by now, but it's November 7th.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
November 7th. Yeah, November 7th.
So you haven't picked up anything since November 7th?
No, it was almost a scared straight program in a sense that I 4 days in jail, all you do is think. You just think. And I realized there, like, I need rape. But I realized I was like, I got to change my life right now because I have I have so much in front of me, and and if you start thinking about it, you get overwhelmed. I go, I need to be the best version of myself, and I got to quit fucking around. I got to quit playing games. Ever since I moved down to Florida, I felt like I've gone on vacation and I haven't stopped. And now, I'm in a situation where I don't know what's going to happen to me. And I know if I don't commit to this, that I don't know what will happen. So I have to be the best version of myself. And then I'm getting all these messages from people, and I go, there's a lot of people out there that's going through tough times right now in this pandemic, and everyone's struggling. And you two are the guys, like, I've seen change. You've helped me. And I also see where you guys are at in your careers. And I think there's hope for anyone if they really want to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't mean that as an insult.
No, it's hilarious.
Listen, I was working one night. I was at Catch a Rising Star years and years ago. David Brenner was on stage. He was David Brenner. People loved him. So the next act, and now Bill Hicks. So Bill Hicks walks up. He goes, when I was a kid growing up, I used to watch Robert Klein and David Brenner. And I go, if they could do it, I could do it. That was the first fucking opening line. After that, then he's talking about Nancy Reagan, an anorexic cunt, he called her, and they were running out the door. And he came up to me after he got off stage. He goes, what went wrong? So if he could do it, I could do it. My career, listen, here's, people quit for different reasons. Some because of courts or law or spouses or whatever. Some people surrender. Some people have enough. Some people hit a bottom. Some don't hit a bottom. Whatever the reason is, whether you're doing it for that or that, it doesn't matter as long as you keep doing it. If your troubles, with the courts or whatever, if everything works out, you go, well, I could drink now. All it's gonna do is come back.
That happened to me
in other ways.
I quit for a year and a half.
Yeah, I'm saying it to you. It's good. It doesn't get better. You don't once you cross that fine line from social use to addiction, there's no turning back. It's barely. You just don't turn. You don't become a social drinker anymore. You had that chance. You fucked it up. You can't be a social drinker.
Yep.
So if if everything gets great, that doesn't give you an excuse because it'll fall apart really quickly.
Yeah.
If you drink.
David said he got drunk after he was eliminated from Last Comic Standing. I got drunk when I did Gotham Live, and the Norm Macdonald was there, and some guy was like, "You want a drink?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's celebrate." And then that was the floodgate from there. I mean, it started out casual and went right back into coping. This is how I cope.
It's the excuse that you need. It's the excuse that you're looking for. And I'm with Rich 100%, where once you go back out, you go back out. Just like I did, you're going to go right back to where you were. Here's the one thing I can say is if you're in jail for doing something that you did while you were drunk, if you stop drinking, that's not going to happen to you. It's just not. I mean, if you take it, and they always say, the cliche of take it one day at a time, there's a reason why that's so important, because when I first quit, it wasn't just a day, it became an hour and then a second. And then it just was me fighting my own brain on a couch and trying to figure out how to get out of my own way so I didn't go out and use again. But one thing happened. I stopped getting arrested. I stopped waking up in jail. I stopped. All these things that were happening to me went away. So the problems in my life that I was creating were eliminated. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll never happen, because at any moment I can ruin everything that I've ever worked for. But every single time that I've decided to do that in my life, it's not been worth it. And every time I've decided to take the right road, it has. And I mean this a lot when I say it to Rich, and I'm not trying to kiss ass, but when you're standing on stage and you're doing comedy and Rich is a hero of mine, and I see him in the back of the room actually watching a comic and laughing, and he's relating to me because I'm talking about my own addictions. That meant a lot to me, that he sat there and watched me, and that he was able to connect to something that was a little bit greater than just stand up, because you're connecting to pain and you're connecting to real things and real stories. And I think in order to get in order, you have to just be honest with yourself. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do, because once you're honest with yourself, you're going to dig up every bit of you that's pain, and every bit of you that's a mistake, and every mistake you made, and you're going to have to live with it. And that is terrifying to people, but I promise it's going to be far more terrifying if you don't.
Or fix it,
Yep.
or fix your mistakes, and I didn't want to bring this up, but I was really waiting for Uber that night. And,
They sent 3 different cars.
So, yeah. Because I said, I'm not going to drive my car home. Why would I drive my car home?
I was just laughing at the irony of how long it was taking.
But I remember when I did stand up on Rich's show, and I was up there, and I got off stage. I go, "What'd you think, Rich?" He was like, "Well, I was in the bathroom." So I
What show were you on? Oh, what when we were at Funny Farm?
Funny Stop.
Funny Stop. I was supposed to be there next week. I canceled it. I said I can't go.
Really?
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't go to Ohio. There's no reason for it.
Here, I gotta call Pete real quick.
No, but I was headlining.
I thought a guest set just opened up.
At this fucking pandemic, there's sometimes I would drive down to Uncle Vinny's to do a guest spot just to get the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did on your show a guest
spot. You did, yeah.
And that's why I stayed. It was so fucking funny. Holy fuck. I can't believe how much I was bragging to people about you. How the fuck are you not a fucking major fucking I mean, you are very funny.
One of my thrills, I really enjoy Dave, because I've always known Dave was hilarious, always. But when he finally came around the New York scene, when everyone found out he was funny, that was funny to me, because I was like, that guy who's been out, he's a road warrior. He's been out there killing it for years, and now everyone knows. And it was a thrill for the road guys. Like, yeah, Landau's the man.
Yeah, it was funny. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying it's nice when people do have your back, because there's so many people that shit on you in this business, and it's just it was cool to always have that support. And part of me was scared. I lived in LA, and I lived in other places, and I was also an alcoholic, and I didn't, I always have a little bit of that in my mind when I make every choice, because I don't want to again go back to where I once was. It's always in there of that I am self-destructive, and that's something that I'm constantly aware of.
Yeah.
When you were in LA, you were doing comedy?
I was.
And you were drinking? Did you work the clubs there and stuff?
No, I had actually gotten sober when I was living in LA in 2012. And I was doing comedy and magic about every night. And the store was dead, though, at that point.
Yeah.
Rogan had left, and so I would do like the Laugh Factory with Tim Allen because he was a Detroit guy, but I was mainly just Ice House and Comedy and Magic every night, and I was able to get a few shows and everything out of it, but I didn't hang out. I didn't stay late at the store and do blow, and I didn't do, so there wasn't. I don't want to say there wasn't room for me, but all the networking involved alcohol and drugs, and I was pretty newly sober, so I didn't make the connections that I could have. And that's not to, I mean, I realize that's a bit of an excuse, but I would go to these meetings, and obviously you can't say who's in them and everything, but I would see a lot of celebrities and a lot of stuff like that, and those were the people I connected with. But a lot of them were actors; they weren't at all in the comedy business. And I don't know, I just didn't connect with that market. I saw it as there was a lot of fakeness out there and a lot of drug use that just I didn't feel all right when I was there.
When I went to LA, I would just, after 3 days, I go, I gotta get the fuck home. I can't take it. And that's when I had shit going on. 3-4 days, please get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And I go to the Improv. I worked the Improv when I was in town. They were the Laugh Factory, but 3-4 days, get me the fuck out of here. People are flying out of there now. They're in New York. They're just moving, getting the fuck out. Where do you live, in Manhattan or Queens or Brooklyn?
I live in Manhattan. Yeah. And when I lived there, I lived in Mar Vista, which was right outside of like Culver City when I lived in LA. And I mean, I like Comedy and Magic because it was a real club. Like it was almost touristy, which is why I like the Ice House. It felt more like the road. I was more comfortable in front of that, where the Improv, I don't have anything wrong with it, but anytime I did it, it always felt like it was industry and a bunch of people were there to see somebody else. And then I would go to Meltdown with a buddy of mine who ran a division of Fox at the time. So you're standing in the back with a bunch of suits who I knew from high school, and it was just sort of uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, this is the hippest place to be, under a comic book store doing alt comedy, and you're like, it's just not my thing. Nothing against it. It just I didn't click with it.
Wait, where was that? At the comic book store?
The Meltdown, Meltdown on Hollywood. Yeah, it was almost across from the Laugh Factory, if I remember correctly.
I kind of remember. I never did a show there. I walked by. That was like a hot place in LA for.
It was the place to go, and I'd walk in with suits, so they thought I was like, they thought I was like an executive, and I'm like, nah, it's just my friends from high school who happen to have made it.
Everyone made it.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting in the back with executives, and people are only introducing themselves to me because they think I'm somebody else.
Hilarious.
That's a smart move. Hang out with guys in suits.
Yeah, total coincidence, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, I still know them, but they're not, I wouldn't say that they're thrilled people. I mean, there's a book I read, the guy was an executive at Disney, and he talks about all the money he made in doing advertising and being in Hollywood. And, he was miserable and drunk. And that's not necessarily this great thing that people believe that it is. Sometimes your dreams suck. And this idea of finding happiness, I think it's there. I think you can find happiness, but I think a lot of times, and especially addicts, we tend to look in the wrong places.
Yeah.
When I moved back out to LA, I moved out there. I joined Punch Drunk on All Things Comedy with Sam, and Brody Stevens talked me to moving out there. We're going to run a room in Burbank. A month later, Brody kills himself. A month after that, they kick me off All Things Comedy because of the Patton Oswalt tweets, and then I'm back to boozing the cope. And that's my first 2 months in LA.
Wait, didn't you have a fallout with Sam?
Yeah, I did, because I got kicked off ATC because of the Patton Oswalt trending tweets, and Sam at the time was just trying to, he had his own thing going, and we're cool now. Everything's forgiven. He's an addict too. He's got problems, and at the time he was just trying to do what was best for his show, and I was just being selfish. I was just like, you're supposed to defend me. I'm your friend. And I took it like he threw me under the bus.
Yeah.
When you're drinking and doing whatever, things get distorted and you're delusional and you're, like this, you're always pointing the finger and you're always, you're never looking at yourself. Not you, a person in general.
No, I know. That was me. You should see some of these text I sent him. They're horrific. But some of them I stand by.
Well,
Like when I say he's a hack.
is he?
No, Sam's great.
It was Sam. We were doing the Byron Allen show. That
Comics
horrible,
Unleashed. I remember seeing. Yes, yeah.
And so I'm telling you, I had to piss so bad. I'm sitting there. So bad that I was going to piss my pants. So Sam was the last act up, and I go, oh man, it's almost. It was. You know how you just can't hold it, and now he's doing his fucking half an hour special when he's supposed to do 5 minutes. He's doing the crippled bit, the handicap bit, which is very funny. Yeah. But this guy's going fucking for 15. I'm going to piss myself. Get the fuck off the stage. He was really funny. But right when I cut the show, I ran to the bathroom. As I'm running, I'm fucking like pissing all over the fucking place.
You're just begging Byron to be like, hey, Rich, I hear you have to take a piss. Is that accurate?
You know, so you just got back from Afghanistan. You had an abortion.
I understand you also have a goldfish. You're like, this seems like not real. I did that show and I left and I was like, it almost felt a little dirty, but a TV credit's a TV credit. I don't know if I could do that again. No. And the phone rings and the guy goes, Byron really liked you. Do you want to stay in town and do one more? I was like, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. I just sold my soul immediately.
Bonnie was taping the same day and she did hers with Jimmy Walker.
Okay.
That's Walker. Dynamite.
Yeah. He went on this sitting down like on this 5-minute rant that made no sense.
Yeah.
No sense. Then Byron just finally cut and goes, we're going to cut to commercial. He leans over to Bonnie and goes, I ad-libbed all that. But no shit.
Wow. That's impressive. You rambled.
You rambled.
Now, when I did mine with Gabe Kaplan, I'm just kidding.
I was
pretty much accurate.
I was working on the road with Jimmy Walker once. And we went to Walmart together. He loves Walmart. So do I, even though they're the worst human beings on the planet. We went to Walmart together and we just split up and went on our own and met back with whatever crap we were buying. Everywhere he went, people recognize him now.
Really?
Yeah. I was walking. We used to hang out. He was trying to do comedy. And we used to, when he came to hang out with Sherman Hemsley, George Jefferson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we did. It's so funny. We were at Caroline's and he was like trying to be a celebrity host, do whatever. So he was hosting the show. And Chris Rock walks in and Chris looks at the stage and goes, he lost all his money? Like, right? He lost all his money? Right? So then after that, we took him down to the cellar. I think it was me, Keith, and Norton. I had my station wagon. We took him for wings and we're walking down through the village with him. Everybody fucking recognized fucking George Jefferson. Everybody. The whole fucking, and we took him and had wings. And I used to get these Kango hats free. And I remember I sending him one or whatever. He was like the nicest guy. He just blew all his money gambling and drinking and doing drugs. Blew it all out the window.
Yeah, I think when I saw him pressed up against Howard Stern when Howard was in blackface being Ted Danson and he was a Whoopi, I was like, yeah, I think he's lost it all at this point. This is not the move of somebody who's doing well.
I know, Jesus.
Moving on down.
You're right. Between that, but between that and Amen, that guy had a level of fame that couldn't.
I forgot about Amen.
Now. Yeah, double Dutch.
Yeah, that's right. The credits.
Yeah, but I mean, that dude had a level of fame that I don't think is attainable.
Yeah, he was on the Dean Martin roast on a couple of those. He was on fucking on the Bunkers. He was on Archie's. He was on All in the Family. From All in the Family to the Jeffersons. Yeah, and
to Amen.
That's a gambling habit right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't make that stupid money like they make now, right? They didn't make that crazy sitcom money.
No, that hit in the 90s. That was really the
Yeah.
90s multi-million dollars an episode kind of a thing. Like they made good money, but I don't even think they had syndication rights back then.
That's where the money was, syndication rights.
Not to Eddie if one up you guys, but I worked with a black actor myself named Todd Bridges who played Willis on Different Strokes.
Did he like crack?
Oh yes, and that was another one. We were just sitting there talking, and you know he's dressed like he just robbed the Salvation Army. I go, we were on the biggest sitcom in the world. Millions and millions of people watched you, and we're just making casual conversation. Like, yeah, he goes, I used to be on the Waltons, and I'm like, what? The Waltons? Really?
Who was it?
He was the black kid. He was the black kid for everything. They said they just plugged him in. Just put.
He was the one from you mean that was on what was it?
Michael Landon.
Oh no, Different Strokes. You're talking
Different
about.
Strokes.
Different Strokes. Yeah.
And he was also in Fish, the TV show with Ava Goda.
Oh my God, he was.
He was the
pull. Yeah.
It was a spinoff of Barney Miller, I believe.
Yeah.
Barney Miller. I was jerking off the other night thinking, whatever happened to Brett Butler? I'm jerking off. I used to do a bit. I was jerking off last night thinking, whatever happened to Albert Finney?
That's hilarious.
All those guys that, you know, and they always think comedy, you know, like these fucking, I can do comedy. It's so disrespected when you see, when some Hollywood star is Me Too. The next thing you know, he's fucking headlining the Improvs.
Yeah, I had to meet Jeremy Piven, and I was like, this makes sense. You were on Entourage 10 years ago. Now I'm standing with you in a lobby and you're mad about it. It's like I'm the one that got bumped down.
Yes.
What I never understood is how Jeremy Piven had to go to comedy because he was Me Too'd, but Louie wasn't allowed to do comedy. I didn't get it.
No, Louie could have done. Yeah, Louie took off for himself and his kids. Louie might have fucked up his, future in Hollywood for who ever knows how long, but he'll never fuck up his future in comedy. He'll always sell out wherever the fuck he goes. You know what I mean? So he just laid low.
Yeah, selling his own special for $4 made him a millionaire overnight.
Yeah.
He can always have those fans, but it is interesting how, he was a Me Too comic and they wanted to pull him out of comedy. And it's like, come on, guys, that's the last resort. Like the step down is clowning. Where do you want him to go? This is where all this shit falls, apparently. It's so sad.
It's spoken word. What's he going to do, a book reading in Soho? Fucking I mean, there's certain people you can't hurt certain people in this fucking business. They're too big to hurt.
Yeah. I would name a name right now, but I'm trying to avoid trouble.
You can't hurt Chappelle. You can't hurt Rogan. You can't hurt. That's not saying anything bad about them. They're too big to hurt.
Kevin Hart is massive, but they were still able to pull the Oscars away from him, which was weird.
But he didn't care. He said, no, I'm not going to apologize. And
which I liked.
And the thing is, Kevin Hart is big as you can get, but in Hollywood, they don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give a fuck. If it's not him, well, somebody else will come. You know what I mean? But in comedy, you can't hurt somebody like Chappelle because he's a comic. He could always do comedy whatever the fuck he wants. You can't hurt Rogan because it's his podcast. What the fuck are you gonna do? Go to people's house and don't listen to him? You know what I mean? So there's certain ones you can't hurt. But once you start dealing with Hollywood, then you can fuck with them because they're depending on Hollywood.
Yeah, and that's why even with Spotify and Rogan, they were like, some of the people in the office are offended by the content. It's like, you make $38,000 a year, and we just paid him $100 million. Guess what investment we're gonna protect first?
What's that?
Who's this?
That's my mother. Come here. Huh? Wait, I'll show you. That's my mother, and that's my Aunt Pat when they were young.
I want to see.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That was my mother. And this is our little
It's like Bonnie.
It's our little roommate.
Yep. Hello, I'm Dave.
Hey, he said hi.
Well, I couldn't hear that. You weren't
Oh,
headphones.
yeah. Couldn't hear.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you taking time out and doing this podcast. I know we had to end it was on a funny note because, you know, I know that like I said, I wanted you two in particular because every time shit goes bad in my life, you guys are getting text messages from me and, you know, and I know there's other people out there, they're trying to get through shit and I wanted everyone to be a part of it and listen and maybe they can take something away.
Well, and Chad, you're inching closer and closer every time. And I mean that, but this is the time where I see your positivity and you can just tell your demeanor is different than the last time I saw you. And that's the Chad that people want to see. And I mean that. So don't give up because the closer and closer, you're getting closer and closer every time. And I know that sounds strange, but because people are like, you know, quit, never go back. But sometimes people do go back a lot before they have to learn their lesson. But I hope you're at that point. And I'm a phone call away if you ever need me.
I appreciate it, Dave.
And I'm going to say after this, I'll probably block you. And okay.
The infamous block list.
Yeah, just live in the fucking moment.